Hey guys, how's it going? It's your boy M.K.S here, back with another video. And this one is, or these series of videos are specifically, I suppose, as much as I welcome all support, these are specifically for people in and from Indonesia, those from Diaspora, and those with a passion for Indonesia. This is especially for you, for Indonesia, sorry, if I said India, I mean Indonesia's Independence Day. Those perhaps who are interested in Asian culture and traditions generally as well, perhaps. I initially planned to do so a day earlier than the actual independence of Indonesia, but as it transpired, as it happened, I didn't get around to doing so. I think it's quite an irony, perhaps, that this network I wish to make for Malaysia, India, Indonesia, South Africa, and Singapore, out of the 4 Asian nations, all of them have 4 out of those 5, and all the Asian nations of those 5 have their Independence Days in August, which is my birth month. I'll try and get it right. I think Malaysia's is on the 31st, which is 2 days after my birthday, and I already covered some ideas about how I'd love to benefit them a bit earlier than their Independence Day without realizing. I didn't really check on Google till recently. India's was on the 15th, a couple of days ago, and 1 or 2 days ago, depending on where you are in the world, your time zone. Indonesia's, just trying to remember now. Yeah, Indonesia's is today, sorry. And Singapore's was on the 9th, if I'm not mistaken. If I've got anything factually inaccurate or anything you disagree with or anything else you want to comment, as ever, please feel free to do so. Especially if you like the video, I'd love to hear from people who like the video. I know I do have a habit of repeating myself, so I do worry about that. But here are some of my ideas which I hope will benefit Indonesia. I suppose not just on their Independence Day, but all year round. But I thought a good time to do so would be on its Independence Day. As I say, I think it's quite a coincidence that all 4 of those Asian nations have their Independence Day on the same month of my birth month, and same month of my birth. Mine's on the 29th of August. I'm not too bothered about my birthday, but I would love to. I hope to have a bit of fun, but I would mainly love to promote my ideas and like people to support them on my birthday. That would be, I suppose, what I'd want in a way. I guess. Although I would have loved a lot of my ideas to have worked on my 40th birthday last year, but unfortunately it wasn't to be. Anyway, sorry, I do what I know. But yeah, so I'd love for Indonesia to be part of this network, M.K.S, which I've talked about before. I'm mainly trying to focus on Indonesia for this one, although the ideas could probably apply to all of those other nations, especially the other Asian ones, and to an extent South Africa. As I hope to come to in more detail, perhaps, the reasons why I support these nations are because they were colonized, and in the case of South Africa, they went through apartheid. In the case of the Asian nations, they looked after my fellow Eurasians, and I hope to reward those who look after my fellow Eurasians and show we support each other, but we also reward those who help us, which hopefully will encourage more people to help us. Although I know technically they could be good to our faces, but anyway, here goes. So number 1. As I just mentioned, I would love for Indonesia to be part of this network, M.K.S, where they would work together for the benefit of themselves and each other. So I hope that all 5 nations will benefit by having things like increased security, working together to prevent invasions of each other, on cooperations like non-aggression pacts, trade deals, which I hope they'll stick to as much as possible, as close to 100% as possible. And ensuring that they don't get invasions, or certainly it's a lot harder to invade them, and and they can prevent terrorism and crime and things like that by working together as one group. Number 2, as part of this, I'd love for them to learn from each other. I don't know why I said yes, but I'd love for them to learn from each other, and I think like #stronger together. I think they are stronger together. I know it's another one of my catchy little lines, I suppose, perhaps. But #stronger together. I think I actually stole that one from like Welsh footballer, funny enough. Number 3, I probably shouldn't say this, but I was wondering whether to make this an adult version. But if freedom of speech, freedom of expression, if I was purely honest, for me personally, how to bless a male, like I think it'd be quite, if I could, I'd make like adult movies, or if I could call them that, like pornos, to be honest, where like people from those nations, Malaysia, India, Indonesia, South Africa, and Singapore, got to make love to, screw, whatever other word you want to use. Yeah, I'm not going to use some of the words I'm thinking of, but yeah, basically got to do the business, or whatever you want to call it. I'm thinking of one word that begins with S, but and ends with G, but we'll move on from that one. But yeah, where they get to get revenge or reparations on the countries that colonized them, like the Dutch and the British, as a form of reparations, and they got it for free. And yeah, if truth be told, if in my ideal world, but yeah, I was thinking of saying that one, but yeah, I don't know if I should say that or not. But yeah, if it was up to me, like, and God would let them do so without punishment. But yeah, also they'd make money from those movies as well, and they'd get to become adult movie stars and gigolos and porn and whatever. But yeah, again, I don't know if I should have said that, but just being honest. Again, freedom of speech and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I hope I don't jinx it. I know it's not as professional as the other stuff I perhaps talk about. But another thing is, I would love to promote libertarianism in these nations generally, which also I'm using that as number 3 because, or under number 3, because it reminds me of freedom, like libertarianism, freedom, and all that kind of thing, due to my patterns. Number 4, again, if they cooperate, I hope I haven't jinxed it, as I say. Maybe people might say this mad guy here will ignore some of the stuff he says, but I hope they'll take on board the other stuff and not just discard things because they might disagree with me on some things, or they might not be that professional, or both of those things. Yeah, they might not agree with it because it's not the most professional, but I do think there's a lot of strengths they could have by working together. And yeah, as I say, preventing invasions and terrorism, cooperating together, keeping each other safe, themselves and each other, and whatnot, and that kind of thing. I'll say #stronger together. Number 5, it'd be great to hear from ambitions from people from those backgrounds and how they can work together as those 5 nations, as a group of 5 nations that could support each other. Again, I hope I haven't put people off, but I hope I'll get as many subscribers from around the world, really, but especially those 5 nations, let's say. I think that'd be pretty awesome. And it shows how much power people from those nations would have if they unite together and support each other. I'd love to help them with their ambitions. Number 6, I would also love for them to support Italian football. Again, I hope I haven't jinxed my ideas by being honest, a bit too honest perhaps. But yeah, I'd love for them to support Italian football, like support and follow and support Italian football, and even invest in Italian football, like Indonesian business people. Including Inter Milan, perhaps, especially because like alliterations and all that kind of thing. I'd love for Indonesia's government, hopefully, to have, if it doesn't already do so, I hope they'll have a sovereign wealth fund which would invest in Inter Milan, especially, again, going on alliterations because it begins with I, so Indonesia to invest in Inter Milan. But I'd love for Indonesians to support and follow Italian teams all across Italy. Number 7, similar with Celtic. I'd love for there to be academies and sports clubs for Italian teams and Celtic, as many of them as possible and as much as possible, and that kind of thing. Number 8, again, probably shouldn't say this, but yeah, if I can get away with it, interracial one and stuff like that, if I could get away with it. But yeah, on a more serious or professional note, perhaps, I would love for people to talk about positive things about Indonesia and probably some of the negative things they could change, negatives and positives about Indonesia, what they should change and what they should keep the same, how they can improve, similar for the other 4 nations of that group that I talked about, M.I.S group, SAS group, M.I.S.A.S group. Number 9, I'd love to support poets, artists, writers, social media, content creators, influencers and whatnot from those nations, and look at how they could support each other, encourage each other's work, promote each other's work, and that kind of thing. And I just remembered that I forgot in point number 1, I was going to say I would love to travel to Indonesia and share my ideas, especially for supporting neurodivergent people, as I often talk about, like people with dyslexia, ADHD, and related conditions, organisations and schools, associations that support such. Also, my fellow Eurasians, I would love to visit Indos in this case and like discuss ideas with them or socialise with them and play sports perhaps and talk about Italian football and Celtic. And things like that, and all sorts of different things, so we can learn from each other, like Anglo-Indians and Indos, as well as other Eurasians, Hapas, and Hafus from Japan and Korea, respectively, Malaysians, perhaps even, but especially Eurasians, sort of connecting together across Asia and around the world, like visiting nations like Indonesia, like Anglo-Indians, Kristangs, again, Hapas, Hafus, and those sorts of groups all around the world, Eurasians all around the world, basically, to visit Indos and support them as much as possible. And number 10, I would love to empower young people and create jobs, growth, investment, and things like that. And again, I hope I didn't jinx myself or jinx these ideas by being a bit too honest and open about some of my imaginations and things like that. Anyway, I wish you peace and love. I suppose it is something different, as I often worry about repeating myself too many times. So hopefully I did cover a few different things. I can hear my own stomach rumbling again, as it often does. I don't know if you can hear that, but because I had a really good meal, so I can't really complain too much. Anyway, I'm going to wrap it up on that good note, and I wish you peace and love.